Hey gang, it's Chris from Ecoustics here in beautiful New Jersey at Samsung's headquarters, US headquarters, checking out the 2026 lineup of Samsung TVs, including their flagship Micro RGB TV, the R95H. We're seeing it here in a 65-inch size, but it will be available in sizes all the way up to 115 inches. There is supposed to be a 130-inch Micro RGB TV coming later this year, but we don't have any details on that yet. This particular line, R95H, will be available up to 115 inches. What's different about this TV and many other TVs, most other TVs on the market, is that it is Micro RGB. What does that mean? Well, any LCD TV needs a backlight. Right? Most LCD TVs have a white or a blue backlight layer, and then they have a color filter to adjust the colors in the actual LCD panel so that you see colors on the screen. With an RGB TV, particularly Samsung's Micro RGB TV, they have microscopic red, green, and blue lighting elements in thousands of tiny modules across the screen, which allows this TV to reproduce a much wider spectrum of colors than you see on a standard even a mini LED TV with quantum dots, or even a QD OLED TV. So what Samsung is claiming is 100% of the BT 2020 color standard, which is a very wide color gamut. What we measured in standard and filmmaker mode, pretty much right out of the box without changing any settings, was about 92%, which is very impressive for a TV to be able to reproduce that much. Most of the content that you see on streaming, Blu-ray, even UHD Blu-ray doesn't come anywhere near that color bandwidth. So it's going to be next generation sources that are going to be able to come closer and closer to the BT 2020 color standard. And when they do, this TV is ready. Gamers will probably like to hear, and sports lovers as well, that this is a native 165 Hertz refresh rate on the panel. That makes it very fast, very responsive for fast moving images like soccer balls, baseballs, hockey pucks. And for gaming, it's got 4 2.1 HDMI inputs, which make it a perfect match for a gaming PC or a next generation console like a PS5 or an Xbox Series X. Yeah, gamers are gonna like it. It does have all of the HDMI ports built into the TV itself, but if you want to move your connections to a wireless connection box, the Wireless One Connect box, it's got a port on the back, so it's Wireless One Connect ready. This means the TV itself would only need a power plug, and then all the rest of the stuff can be done wirelessly in a box about 30 feet away, even behind a cabinet. So that's a nice upgrade for those who want to create a seamless environment for the TV. It also supports Samsung's art gallery, so when it's not in use playing TV stuff, it can display up to 5,000 different works of art. Now, some other things this year, as with many TV companies, Samsung is leaning heavily into AI, not just for picture quality enhancement, which it is doing in a couple of different ways, but also for the user experience. What they've done is incorporated an upgraded version of their Bixby agent into the TV that allows you to ask natural language questions like, hey, what's a great recipe for seared branzino? And it will give you back not just a list of YouTube videos showing how to make fish, but also, it'll talk about the dish in general, right? The way that an AI search engine would be able to tell you. It's not just content recommendations, but it's natural language interaction and questions answered. In terms of the measurements, we measured this thing right out of the box. Didn't do a lot of fancy picture settings. We did turn off eco mode, but we did leave auto brightness on. And the measurements that we got were about 1,418 nits in a 10% window, so 1418 nits of peak brightness in a 10% window in filmmaker mode. And when we switched over to standard mode, it went up to about 1,730 nits. So now, could it go higher? Absolutely. I'm sure it can go higher in a dynamic mode, or if we tweak some of the picture settings, we could probably get much higher peak brightness output. But just right out of the box, CalMan is telling us those were the measurements, and those should be plenty for a bright room. Hey, so when Al and I were measuring the Samsung Micro RGB TV, we noticed that the peak brightness numbers were a little bit lower than we had expected. Turns out it was that brightness optimizer setting that was causing that. Brightness optimizer uses an ambient room light sensor on the TV to adjust the brightness based on ambient room lighting conditions. And since the room was very dark, it was actually lowering the brightness, and that affected our peak brightness measurements. So when we turned that brightness optimizer off, we got a little bit different numbers. With a 10% white window in filmmaker mode with HDR content, we measured 1,541 nits, which is quite respectable, 1,541 nits. And in standard mode, the difference was even larger. Standard mode, HDR content, 10% white window, we measured 2,223 nits. 2223 nits. So quite a bit higher than what we measured with the brightness optimizer on. So we thought you might like to get both of these measurements and included this in there as an update. So we now return you to your regularly scheduled video. So we had talked about how AI is used in the Samsung TV to enhance the picture quality. What they have on this TV that's different from any of the others in the line is the Micro RGB AI Engine Pro processor. So you won't find that on any of Samsung's other TV, only on the R95H. And that includes both a Micro RGB Color Booster Pro, which enhances or widens the color gamut for standard color gamut material like Rec. 709, so you can see brighter, more vivid colors even on things like Blu-rays and DVDs and standard streaming services. And it also has something called AI Customization Mode, which detects the type of content coming in, whether that's sports or movie, news, live footage, and adjusts settings like motion reproduction, color reproduction, white balance, etc., to match the type of content that's being displayed. And the big advantage that this TV has over many competitive models in a bright room is that it features Samsung's anti-glare, or glare-free is what they call it, sorry, Samsung's glare-free screen. Ambient room lights like lamps, overhead lights, natural sunlight are basically absorbed by the TV and not reflected back at the user. Now, the drawback is it can raise the black levels a little bit compared to, say, viewing in a dark room, but you don't see those big hot spots in the screen where the lamps are. It's not a mirror-like finish, so it's a much more pleasant viewing environment when you're watching the TV in a bright environment. Samsung says this is really their best TV for bright room viewing, while their QD OLED is also plenty bright. They'd recommend this for bright room viewing and potentially the QD OLED for dark room viewing. So the R95H will be available this year. Again, sizes from 65 inch to 115 inches. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.